I can't expect anyone to take me serious unless I really give you a better picture of what my struggles are and how I overcame them and the ones that I still have. And I want to talk about PTSD. I don't know how many, a lot of people have it, whether you've been to war, prison, maybe a bad upbringing or environment that you grew up in, maybe abuse, any type of abuse. And, my motto is, you have to embrace your pain. You have to take all that pain and suffering that, you went through and use it as a driving force to push you forward. Basically, strength through struggle. But I still don't have it all down. I struggle too. I've, of course, I did a lot of prison time. I don't know if I got my PTSD from there, though. I think it started before when I was about 13, 12 years old, or even maybe before then. I mean, I had a fucked up upbringing. And a lot of people have. A lot of people have just, it was fucked up. And it still goes on today. I mean, people are still being brought up in those types of environments in those types of ways. But I want to talk to you guys about anxiety and PTSD because maybe you can relate with me and maybe you're going through some of the same shit that I've been through and still continue sometimes to go through. And if I share my stories with you, you can understand that you're not the only one. So I thought I was having, when I was being brought up, I've been through a lot. My dad beat me. I mean, he humiliated me. He beat me in front of my friends. And back then it was okay to do. You didn't get in trouble for doing shit like that. I'm almost 50 years old. Basically I couldn't, I didn't want to be around people or bring friends over or anything like that because my household environment was fucked up. It was just fucked up. There was drugs around. There was just all kinds of things. And that's just one part of what it was. And then I had gotten beaten so bad that my mother, who got beat as well. I mean, nose broken, bones broken, stuff like that. She sent me out to live with my grandmother. And so when that happens, it triggers something from a child's perspective, because you're so used to one thing and then you get uprooted and you go to another. But where I went to, I had more freedom. But I only knew what I learned before. So of course I got rebellious. And I remember being sent out there and I cried to Florida, and I cried for 2 weeks straight. I missed my mom and dad, even though they fucked me up, and I didn't know any better. I didn't know any different. I just knew that was my mom and dad. And that's kind of the things that go on today, where children are being abused because they only know their parents, so they can't tell the difference. They don't know what's right or wrong, so they can't tell the difference. So their mother or father can beat them and do all kinds of shit to them. And then the next day the kid will come and still show love to the parents because they don't know any better. I've experienced it myself. I got the shit beat out of me my whole childhood. But I tell you what, when I got away from my parents, I missed them and I cried because I didn't know any better. So I think that's about the time my anxiety started, because after being out there at 13 years old, just turned 13, I called an ambulance because I was having chest pain and I thought I was having a heart attack. So if you think that you have to be an adult to suffer from anxiety, you're completely wrong. I feel that my anxiety had gotten better and better through the years and then got worse once I turned 40, because when you turn 40, of course, after you've lived such a crazy, life and unpredictable life, that you start questioning your own mortality, how much time you have left. And that's where your health anxieties really come in. But my anxiety will get so debilitating to where I don't even want to talk to my kids. I ignore them and I bury myself in my phone, Googling symptoms. And when you Google symptoms for any type of feeling that your body, because now I say, if something is off on your body and something you haven't felt before, you need to go get it checked out, because people die. So many people die every year because of stubbornness and trying to walk it off. Okay, I'm a Gen Xer, so our thing is walk it off. Just walk it off. You're going to be all right. But if it's something that's different or something that's making you feel like something's off, your body, you could tell. You'll know. But so many things are attributed to anxiety. So many things. I'm not even going to tell you how many times in my life that I've been to the emergency room because I thought I was having a heart attack. For 20, 30 years. Or, whatever. But never had a heart attack. Always got the same workup, said everything's fine. And then it'll last, after they give you that assurance, it'll last for a couple weeks, and you're like, yeah, I'm good. But then another symptom will pop up, and that assurance is gone. My health anxiety got so bad that I would just go drive and sit at a hospital in the parking lot to make it go away. Because I knew that if I did have a heart attack or something's going on, I was right there at the hospital so I can get the help that I needed. I have to say that it stems from PTSD. Now, I'm not a psychiatrist, but I did try to read every book that I can to understand what it is that's happening with me. Because the smallest things can trigger your anxiety. So, I've started trying to think, I go to the gym every day. I get sore. But I know what muscle soreness feels like. So if I go like this and I can feel it, I know I'm sore. But if I feel like a instant little pinch real quick somewhere on my body, instantly my mind goes into a frenzy. And what happens is subconsciously, your body triggers what's called your fight or flight mechanism. And it releases all this adrenaline because that mechanism is put there in case something happens. From our ancestors, if you're walking or you're hunting and then a saber-toothed tiger jumps out and you recognize it and your body kicks into this fight or flight system and it goes ballistic. But when you're sitting in an environment where you're just chilling and watching TV or in public, hanging out with people and being calm, and that kicks in, you don't know what to do with it because you're not running, you're not fighting, you're not taking off, you're not doing any of that. It all just overwhelms you. And it causes a panic attack. You can feel like you're having a heart attack. You can feel like you can't breathe. You can feel impending doom and death that you're going to die any second. And I've been going through this anxiety, especially health anxiety, for a really long time. And it all comes down, I would think, to a basic fear of death. Because why would you care about your health if you weren't scared to die? That's my philosophy of it. You know, now, why are you scared to die? Are you scared of just the thought of death? Are you scared of leaving your family behind, your loved ones behind, your kids, everything that you've ever known, or what's coming after, what comes after death? And so I just lost a really good friend of mine, my best friend. And we hung out, you know, back in the days, but we both went our separate ways and lived our different lives. We didn't hang out all the time, but we would talk 2-3 times a week for an hour at a time on the phone. If I needed somebody, he was there for me. When I did all my prison time, when I had no family, nobody looked out for me, he was there for me. He sent me packages, helped me out, everything like that. He's my best friend. Never turned his back on me. Never. He's a Christian guy. Me wasn't. He used to try to preach to me here and there, you know, and but he accepted me for who I was. He was my best friend. And I miss him every fucking day. Every day. And we would talk on the phone all the time about aliens, stuff like that. But one of the things, because he used to try to preach to me the Bible, which I've read back and forth over and over again, because when I was doing time, sometimes in the hole, that was the only book that we had. And so I know a lot about the book. And he would preach to me all the time, and he'd be like, man, you know, you got to find God, you got to find Jesus, etc., you know. And I'd be like, yeah, Mike, okay, whatever, man. You know, it is what it is, you know. And he wouldn't sit there and try to push it on me. We'd just go on to our conversation. He accepted me for who I was, and we would talk, though. We would talk about what's after. What comes after we die? Is there something after? Is there these pearly gates? Is there... And my personal opinion is I'm what you'd call an agnostic. So I believe that there is a creator, something created. This didn't come from, I don't believe in evolution. I don't believe any of that shit ever happened. I believe that there is something more powerful. And this is all by design. I just don't believe in the Bible version of it. Okay. But I believe that the events in the Bible were real. But I don't want to get into religion or anything like that. All I want to tell you is he was my best friend. And we had just talked a couple days prior. You know, we were talking on the phone, and everything was fine. We were bullshitting, talking about, I think it was last year sometime. And it's fine. He hung up. And 3 days later, he calls me. And he's like, I'm at the hospital, bro. It don't look good. And you know me, I'm like, yeah, whatever, dog. You're fine. I'm like, what's going on? He's like, well, my stomach's bloated. And he's like, they did a CT scan and they seen these little growths on my liver. So they want to do like some more workup and stuff like that. So instantly I jump on Google. I start Googling it. I'm like, he said they were small. So I'm like, small nodules on the liver and on the lung and stuff like that. And then something comes up and it's like, hey, it's probably this, which was benign. And so I call him up and I'm like, yeah, dude, I did all my hypochondriac research and you're gonna be fine, dude. Stop. You know? He's like, yeah, you know, he's like, he smokes cigarettes. And he's like, yeah, man. He's like, when I get out of here, he's like, I'm not going to smoke. I'm not doing anything anymore. He's like, this has scared me. You know, this is what I needed to scare me. And I'm like, yeah, dude, it's not worth it. My friend died 3 weeks later. It was so fast that I didn't even get to say goodbye. I didn't even get to say goodbye. He said, I called him because I would talk to his wife. I'd found out that he had cancer. It was cancer. They didn't know what kind of cancer it was at the time. And I would talk to his wife, and she was trying to figure everything out, and he had to go into hospice within 2 weeks because his blood started clotting. And and he told me through all these years, he was like, for the last 2 years, he's like, I got to take Zofran every day because I have this autoimmune disease, psoriasis, and it makes me nauseous. And it wasn't that, though. It wasn't the autoimmune disease. He had pancreatic cancer. Didn't even know it. Killed him in 3 weeks. I didn't even get a chance to say goodbye. My last conversation with him was, I called him because he wasn't answering my calls. I talked to him and I'm like, hey man, what are you doing? And he's like, no, I'm just sitting here. He's like, I'm going to go and we're going to go check out these therapies and stuff like that. I'm sitting here watching this movie with my son. And I'm like, okay, man. I'm like, what are you watching? He told me what it was. I was like, oh, I'm going to watch it with my kids as well. Some movie about a fungus growing or something. So we used to get into movies like that. And they didn't answer my phone for 3-4 weeks. And his wife didn't answer my calls either. And I got, worried, and I didn't know what to do. And finally I called him again and he answered my call. This is about a week before he passed. And he said, hey man, he says, don't call me anymore. He's like, because you're making me do something that I don't want to do, and I don't want to reach up for the phone, and I don't want to talk to you. He's like, I love you, bro. You're my brother, and I'll see you on the other side, but I just want to be with my family. This happened so fast. And then 3 days later, he was gone. He was gone. And I miss him every day. But my point that you guys need to understand is tomorrow is not promised to us. But me and him used to talk about what happens after you die. And he knows. And I told him, I was like, look, motherfucker, when you get over to the other side, you need to let me know what's there. Because we talked about it all the time. I was like, you need to let me know what's there. Because I'm not a believer in anything like that. I don't know. And I'm still waiting for him to tell me. And I know if there's something there, he will. No, there is. But he knows I'm a hypochondriac, and I've always been a hypochondriac. And that's why we used to talk about that stuff all the time. And I've always had the health anxiety. Now, right before he passed away, we had another guy who was a friend of ours who was trying to reach out to my doctor for testosterone therapy because he was fatigued all the time and he had a little lump on his side. Young guy, he's like 35 years old. And my friend who passed away was only 44. And he's like, hey, man, he's like, can you hook me up with your doctor? My buddy wants to try testosterone because he has no energy. He died fast. And after he died, me and Mike were like, man, we got to take care of ourselves, man. He's like, yeah, I know, because, that could happen to any of us. And not even a year later, it happened to my friend. So that made my health anxiety even worse when I lost him, because now I'm like, I get bloated or I get a little pain or a little jagged something here, and I'm freaking the fuck out. And one of the problems with the medical system today when it comes to anxiety is they don't listen to you. And it becomes this permanent diagnosis when you go to the ER. Oh, it's anxiety. This motherfucker's dying of cancer, but no, it's anxiety. Because so many people have it, it's hard for them to distinguish what's real and what's not. Because the medical system doesn't get to know their patients anymore. Because they're just pushing people through due to insurance, due to healthcare rules, and the person that supervises everything. It's anxiety. But mine is. It's definitely anxiety. I know it is. And I know a lot of you are going through the same fucking thing. The same type of anxiety. In and out of the hospital, blood tests, CT scans, chest x-rays, MRIs, all of these things. Maybe, a lot of people with anxiety have medical bills that are millions of dollars. They have hypochondria or hypochondriacs. And you think that you could talk yourself out of a panic attack because all these gurus come on here and say that you could talk yourself out of a panic attack. Just breathe. It doesn't work that way. Once your body releases that adrenaline, that fight or flight, breathing does not take it out of your blood. It is in your blood, and you will continue to have the panic attack. And there's some things that help. CBD, THC, stuff like that. Yeah, it definitely helps. But not all states will let you have it. But what they will do is they will prescribe you shit from Big Pharma, SSRIs, benzodiazepines, stuff like that, which will fuck you up. Because if you get addicted, and that's the thing, you get addicted to those, try coming off of them. Because I had it at one point with my anxiety, and they gave me Xanax, and I took it for a year. And I never upped my dose. I stayed at 0.5 milligrams for an entire year, and I felt like a fucking zombie. I couldn't function. I couldn't function at all. And I was like, fuck this, I'm coming off. And I just stopped. And let me tell you something. I thought I was going to die every single day. You come off those things, and it's like death, nightmares, intrusive thoughts, suicidal thoughts. It's like you're not even in reality anymore. And I went through that for 6 months. I would have dry heaves because not only does that affect you mentally, it affects you physically as well, just like anxiety does. But they're quick to prescribe those to you because that's what doctors do now. They don't want to pay for like cognitive behavior therapy. The insurance companies don't want to cover that. They'll cover the drugs where they get kickbacks from pharmaceutical companies. They don't want to pay for a therapist. And a lot of therapists don't even listen to you anymore. And you go and you talk to a therapist and you're going to be like me, I have, and I'm like, dude, you don't understand me. You haven't lived my life. You don't know me. Yeah, but, I think what's happening here is this part of your brain is doing this. I was like, no, you don't know me. You don't know who the fuck, what I've been through. Why aren't you asking me that? Why aren't you asking me how this has affected me? Why don't you know? Here's some drugs. You'll be fine. And that's where we live now. And even though CBD and stuff like that is natural, they don't want you having that. So a lot of states, you can't even have it to help with anxiety. But you can have a pill that will destroy your life, that you can never come off. My anxiety got so debilitating So I was having these heart palpitations. I had them for a long time. I just made a video on it because a lot of doctors, they just want to prescribe you medication. Now, I went to see a cardiologist, everything on my own, paid out of my pocket, stress test, echo, all that. And I'm having these heart palpitations. And the doctor tells me, he's like, listen, he's like, you're having these heart palpitations because your blood pressure's high. Well, this is the thing. I have anxiety, which I'm sure a lot of you people out there with anxiety can relate to this. And even though you don't know what's going on, you go to the doctor or to the ER, they take your blood pressure. It's 180 over fucking 120. Your heart rate is 150. That's called white coat syndrome. People with anxiety get that. So they automatically say, oh, dude, you have high blood pressure. Or if you go to your regular doctor, you have anxiety. So you automatically have white coat syndrome. So when you take your pressure at the doctor, it's high all the time. But you don't have high blood pressure. You have anxiety. You're nervous. So your blood pressure goes through the roof. So the doctor's like, hey, come back in 2 weeks. Let me check it again. And when you come back, you're remembering that your blood pressure was high last time you were there. So you get paranoid when you get there thinking it's going to be high again in your head. And it's high again because you literally are releasing that fight or flight endorphins because you have anxiety. So your blood pressure's high again. He's like, okay, I'm going to check it one more time. Come back in 2 weeks. So you go home, you're like, fuck this, I weigh too much. I'm going to lose some weight. I'm going to change. I'm going to drink a bunch of water before I go. That way, when I get back there, my blood pressure is going to be fine. So you go back to the doctor the next time. Soon as you get there and he puts that cuff on your arm, boom, your anxiety kicks in. You could have lost 10 pounds, blood pressure could have dropped, all that. But as soon as you get there, your anxiety kicks in. And as soon as your anxiety kicks in, boom, blood pressure's high again. Doctor's like, yep, you have high blood pressure. We're going to give you calcium channel blocker. We're going to give you a beta blocker. And we're going to give you a water pill because you got to get that blood pressure under control. Not knowing that if you go to the gym and you lift weights and say you're doing heavy squats, your blood pressure gets 240, 250 over like 150. And that's normal because the human body reacts to it. But now your anxiety just got you prescribed a bunch of medication that you don't fucking need. But then you start to take it. But if you're a hypochondriac and have anxiety like I do, I don't want to take those fucking pills because I don't want the side effects and I don't know what they're going to do to me. So I go and start doing my own research. And when you're doing your own research, a person with anxiety, you will not stop researching until you hear what it is that you want to hear, whether it's true or whether it's not. And what I mean by that is you're going to be like, you're going to be Googling, you're going to say, my blood pressure's high in the doctor's office, but I go to the gym every day, so is it okay? And you're going to keep searching until it says it is. Because everybody has their own opinion. But you have to do your own research to know that white coat syndrome exists because they don't want to tell you that. And another thing, when you go in there to get your blood pressure taken, you are supposed to be calm and sit down for 10 minutes to get an accurate reading. Because if you're up moving around and doing all this, your blood pressure is going to go way higher. But they don't do that. As soon as you walk in, they're taking your blood pressure. Oh, we need to take his blood pressure down. It's too high. Give him an IV of beta blockers. Sticking you with all this medicine that you don't need because you have anxiety, but they don't want to tell you that. They don't want to tell you have anxiety. And then you end up on all these fucking pills that you don't need. So You know, what I ended up doing was I bought me a home blood pressure monitor and check it when I'm just chilling, sitting, watching TV, seeing what it is. And of course, it's normal. But I go to the doctor or the hospital or ER when I'm having an anxiety attack with my white coat syndrome, it's 190 over 110. And they tell me, are you taking your blood pressure pills? And I'm like, yeah. Like, we need to take more. I'm like, yeah. Because that's all they want to do is prescribe that. And then I go to my cardiologist and I'm like, hey, man, I'm having these heart palpitations. Like, I'm having these heart palpitations and I don't know what's going on. Am I going to have a fucking heart attack? This is crazy. Stress test gets on it. Oh, they're normal. They're harmless. Don't even worry about them. But let me give you a beta blocker. Let me put you on this pill. Let me put you on this pill. Let me put you on this pill. They'll go away. They didn't go away. They didn't go away at all. So I was like, dude, these guys are fucking wrong. Because that cardiologist I went to see, he didn't sit down with me and ask me the questions that needed to be asked. He didn't ask me what my diet's like. He didn't ask me, am I active? Am I physically active? Do I have a history of colitis? Do I have a history of GERD? Do I have a history of acid reflux? Because little they're cardiologists, they don't want to come out and say, hey, heart palpitations could be caused by many things. Stress and anxiety as one, caffeine as another, GERD as one, hiatal hernia as one, vagus nerve stimulation that connects your gut to your heart as one. There's so many things that can cause heart palpitations and your heart to skip a beat. They don't tell you that, though. They're just like, hey, man, you got heart palps, take this med. I got rid of mine on my own because I researched it. I'm like, fuck, I'm bloated all the time. And I only get these heart palpitations when my stomach's bloated or when I eat certain things. So let me cut these things out, let the bloat go down, and see if the palpitations go away. And they do. And then when I tell the doctor that, he's like, yeah, no, you're tripping. You're tripping. Most of the time when they put you on these medications, you don't even need them. Now, if you have a family history of heart disease or heart problems, anything like that, I suggest being a hypochondriac. I did all my research. I suggest you go get a lipo-A test, which is a cholesterol, a certain kind of cholesterol that makes your blood a little bit stickier. It's little a, apo-A or lipo-A. I suggest you get that checked because that's kind of an important marker that you should pay attention to. And you could get that done at any health testing center. You can go online, find a testing center, get it checked. Look at it yourself. Look at it yourself. And then compare it to what it should be. And if it's high, because that does cause heart attacks in younger people. See, me being a hypochondriac, I went through all kinds of different changes. I studied everything. I took an EMT1 class. I took a physiology and anatomy class. That's how much of a hypochondriac that I actually am. Okay? So I could, and I hover my kids like that too. And I'm such a hypochondriac, I keep a defibrillator in the house, D-chokers, EpiPen. None of us have allergies, but I keep it anyway. But all that, learning I did from being a hypochondriac helped me better diagnose when I need to take my kids to the doctor or not. Per se, I would know that if my kids got sick with the flu and got a fever, and then the fever went away and it broke, and then 2 days later it came right back, then they could have got a secondary bacterial infection from the first fever. So yeah, they probably need antibiotics. And I learned all these things from being a hypochondriac. And man, it's still struggle. I mean, I just had a panic attack that lasted 3 days that I'm barely coming off of now, because they still happen. And I know that it's anxiety. I know what it is. But the fact of the matter is, it doesn't matter. When you get too stressed out, your body will tense up. Your shoulders will tense up. Then you'll start feeling little pains, little jolts, little stuff in your body. And that sets off that fight or flight mechanism, and you go through it. And dude, I will tell you this, I've suffered with it for so long, and I know a lot of people are suffering from it, but I want you to know that you can overcome it and try to get a handle on it. Okay? But it's always going to be there unless you are able to deal with whatever caused it. And whatever caused it is going to be something that happened to you in your life, something that is mental, something that you have not accepted yet, and it sits in the back of your mind. That's why I say that you have to embrace your pain. You can't take something that you've been through and put it in the back of your mind. You have to let that shit out and own it. No matter how horrible it was, you have to own it and use it as a driving force to get you through this. And I will tell you one thing that really helped my anxiety out is the fact of exercising and weight training more than anything. If I get angry, I take it out on the weights. But anxiety has so many, it could do so much to you. It could physical symptoms manifest in so many different ways, from pains to jolts to tingling to, I have a thing where, I would constantly be on my phone stopwatch holding my pulse. People do. There's a kid that's on TikTok. His name's Trey something. He talks a lot about this stuff. He's really got some interesting insight on it because he's gone through the same shit. And it's real. And as the society gets more technological, anxiety is going to get different. And I'll tell you another thing that triggers anxiety is the food that you eat. If you're eating a bunch of sugar or drinking a bunch of caffeine, too, that will fuck you up. It will fuck you up. Hormones play a big part in it, but it all really comes down to what caused the PTSD, what caused the anxiety, because PTSD will manifest itself in so many different ways. And I will tell you something, I really enjoy sharing my stories with you. And, I think that, if I can help somebody else out who's going through the same thing, and I know that you're out there going through the same thing, anxious on what's going to happen today, anxious what's going to happen tomorrow. Listen, guys, you got to live for today. You woke up this morning. That's something a lot of people didn't get to do. You got to live for today. Like there's no tomorrow. Because you just never know. Never know. And I'm not saying every symptom that you have is anxiety, but I can say if you do have anxiety and you've been going through this for a long time, and if you've been checked out by doctors, you're most likely that's about what it is. And it's powerful. That fight or flight response that your body puts out is powerful. Yeah, it's just supposed to help you get away from a bear. Superhuman strength, right? But if you get this sudden urge of superhuman strength when you're just chilling watching TV, it's not going to go good. It's not going to go good. It's going to fuck you up. And I still deal with it. on a daily basis. I'm trying to get better. But it seems like the older that I get, the worse it gets, because then, because when you were 25 years old, so, and I'm saying this to all the youngsters out there who are listening, if you're 20, 25, 30 years old, odds of your chest pain being a heart attack are probably like 0.5%, the odds. But when you're my age, chest pain ain't nothing to be fucked up with, because it could totally be a heart attack, But if you're having the same pain all the time, because I try to tell myself, one of the things that I use, I'm like, have I felt like this before? Have I felt like this before? And did it kill me then? Have I felt like this before and been checked out for it and it didn't kill me? Then it's probably anxiety. And I know this sounds crazy when your heart's beating fast and you're having this crazy anxiety and crazy panic attack. But I tell you what, man, you get your ass up, go to the fucking gym and hit that treadmill. I don't care how fast your heart's beating, and that shit will go the fuck away. Because all that fight or flight that's released in your body, you go expend it. Get it out. Make it be gone. And it'll go away. It'll go away. So I'm going to do, more episodes on anxiety. This is one I really wanted to share with y'all. And I'm going to dedicate this episode to my friend Mike Copeland. And, if you or any of you have lost somebody and you didn't get a chance to say goodbye like I did, family member, friend, anything, leave a comment. Tell them how you feel. Tell them that, you miss them. But you're moving on, which we all have to do. But you miss them. Yeah, I miss Mike. I miss those phone calls. I miss talking to him every day. And I miss, he went way too fast. And I'm Casper. This is the American News Show. And in memory of Mike Copeland, until next time.